Hey, what's up, you guys, and welcome back to the Televised podcast. My name is Anna, and today we're going to be talking about Supergirl Season 6, Episode 18, titled Truth or Consequences. Don't shoot the messenger, but I actually really like this episode. I think it's a lot better on a rewatch than it is on a first watch, and really, I mean, it's hard to like the things that happened in this episode because obviously the thing is that this episode is meant to be the ultimate low before hitting the ultimate highs of the finale. Like they have to hit rock bottom before this finale in order to, move forward with the show and kind of like take that trajectory and go up with it instead of, because you can't win for the last 3 episodes of your show. You have to win, in the finale. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. But like I said, it very much so, this episode served as a way to just make every character hit ultimate rock bottom in order to spur them into the ultimate action for the final episode. So yeah, I don't know, thinking about it in that way, it's definitely a really effective episode. I don't necessarily agree with everything that happened in it. I don't necessarily think that it was the best Supergirl episode I've ever seen, but it was also not the worst Supergirl episode I've ever seen, especially on rewatch. I think there was a lot of suspense there. It really I think they did a really good job of like playing with the emotions of the audience in this episode, and I don't know. Let's get into it specifically. So, at the tower, William tells the Superfriends this information that he got from Otis, which basically is that Lex has built a Lexosuit army in order to take down the Superfriends and get all the totems. And Nia, she's smart. She knew like right off the bat. She's like, what if Otis spilling the tea is one of Lex's traps? Because of course it was. Like, hello. But Lena says, look, even if it is one of his traps, we can still use this to our advantage, because she says she could track the suits and finally find Naxum's ship that she has not been able to find because it's cloaked or whatever. And then she also says that she got a call from a friend, like, I don't know, someone you went to boarding school with. That's all the friends that Lena has, is just people like women that she went to boarding school with, that she had a very homoerotic falling out with. Roulette, Andrea, this person who owns the club. Anyway, though, she says that her friend called and said that there's this VIP suite available at this club for Alex and Kelly's Bachelorette party tonight. So that'll be really great. Alex is super hesitant, though, because she's like, hello, we still have an imp flying around. What are we going to do? And Kara says, look, you just have to seize the joy when you can. You have to take advantage of this cool opportunity to have this like VIP area. Like, let's celebrate. We'll be okay, And so they set the date, but then Alex gets a text from Kelly saying that Esme had some trouble at school today. So she ends up leaving, but then William's phone starts blowing up, and apparently it's because Andrea, you remember at the end of the last episode when Akrata went in and stole Lex's diary with all that nasty poetry in it about Nyxly? Well, guess what she did with it? She published it. She published the whole thing. It's very much, oh no, what was that Disney Channel movie where Danielle Panabaker's sister got her entire diary published? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's what she did to Lex. But the kicker is she did it under William's name because she's like, it comes with prestige or whatever. So these morning news people are like reading Lex for filth. Like, they're like making fun of him about everything that was in this diary. And William's like, I got to go. Which, yeah, you probably do. So while he's being read for filth on the morning news, on Maxim's ship, they're watching the reports as well. And Nyxly's even like, maybe someone should have hidden his diary better. And they call them Nyx or Lexley. They call them like Lexley on the TV. And it's like, guys, you always come up with the worst possible ship names. It's Nyx Lex. That works so much better. Lexley is bad. So Nyxly is now on the hunt for the truth totem, and once the ball shows them a location, Lex says that they could put his Lexosuit army to use. At Catco, Andrea is speaking Spanish when William barges into her office. He tells her that that her use of his name to validate an unethical story is like beyond unprofessional, also evil. You know, he goes off on her. and he says that basically like publishing this romance storyline makes them look like a joke, and he's worried that people won't be as scared of them now because they're kind of the laughing stock of National City. He then yells at her for her ends justifying the means, but like, come on, King, you have been working with the Superfriends for how long? Like, how many episodes where the Superfriends have clearly used the same, like, ends justifying the means to do, like, you were literally there when Lena decided that it was okay to, like, take people's humanity away in order to lure Nyxly out. Like, you were literally there, sir. Like, you know, where's this energy for the Superfriends? Why is your entire personality built around yelling at Andrea Rojas? I don't know. But he ends up telling her that her pathological obsession with being number one has made her cold and callous. And he says, you, Andrea Rojas, stand for nothing. Nothing. And it made me think of, if you've seen Merlin, where Morgana, she is about to walk out of Uther's throne room, and she says, and you, Uther Pendragon, will go to hell. And that is my favorite moment. But it's like a cheap knockoff. It's not the same. So on the Legion ship, Brainy gets intel from Wynn about Lex and Nyxly, but also gets some bad personal news that we're not privy to yet, but he's just reacting very poorly to it. Nia ends up kind of looking really proud when he comes in and tells all the Superfriends that he called the future, because of course she just wants her little boyfriend to be happy. And he says that Lex and Nyxly completed the Allstone and anointed themselves king and queen of the universe in the future. But then he says that the Allstone begins to fail, and so that's when the Legion decided to take that as their opportunity and kill Nyxly. And then Kara says if he's in love, there's no telling what he'll do for Nyxly. And of course, very reminiscent of Kara being willing to do literally anything for Lena. Literally anything. Steal, break into things, change the entire timeline just for Lena. Yeah, there's no telling what she'll do for Lena. So they get a hit on the Alexosuits and they fly off to the ship. On the ship, Kara sees the Hope Totem, and she's like, that's impossible because I threw it into the sun. And, but they get in a kind of a cool fight with Nyx Lex, and then Nyxly ends up opening a dream portal, but Nia gets them back safe. She manages to open another one, and they just drop in the tower. And they ended up actually managing to snatch the dream totem from Nyxly before they left, which was really great because obviously now they don't have many totems left to nab, so that's great. At the tower, the Superfriends figure out that the totems are just too elemental and powerful to be destroyed, and they just turn into something else. Jean asks Brainy if he can gather any more intel from the future, and he's kind of like hurt. He looks hurt by this request, and he's kind of like makes this like snarky comment about wanting to, he's like, yeah, we should want to speed things up, and that's kind of, you know, a hint at where this is going. So with Lex and Nyxly, they get into a screaming match because, of course, why would they not get into a screaming match? And especially because Nyxly just still doesn't trust that Lex isn't sabotaging her. That's why they're fighting, because she just like can't wrap her mind around the fact that Lex is truly on her side and won't betray her. And he tells her to believe not in him, but in herself. And then they end up getting a hit on the truth totem and they're off. At Alex and Kelly's place, it turns out that a kid at school was making fun of Esme because she baked a chocolate roulade? I don't know. Some kind of dessert that's not a cookie or a brownie or like a cake. She made one of those for the baking contest, and these kids were making fun of her. And she didn't mean to use her powers, but then boom, paint everywhere. And she's so cute. And then we get like a microdose of protective mama Alex, where she's like, yeah, you know, those kids, if I ever see them. But then Alex finally discovers the tattoo on her 5-year-old daughter's neck. And she's like, is that a tattoo? And Kelly's like, it wasn't there at bath time. It's like, somebody had to put her hair up. That's the real thing. It's like, unless she like did her own hair, but she's like really little. You'd think that like, cause she had these little pigtails in, like, come on guys. Anyway, though, on the Legion ship, Brainy speaks with classic Brainy, who also has a new look, which I loved. Very, very comic accurate with the yellow boots and the, they kind of like did like a little merge of Brainy's 3-dot black shirt, except for now it's kind of got the purple, and he has a Legion belt. I don't know. I really liked seeing this version of classic Brainy, and I liked that he had the long hair with the ponytail. So good. And he was green as well, because the last time that we saw classic Brainy, he was not green. He was normal skin colored, you know. But I loved to see him again. Hated what he had to say. Absolutely despised what he had to say. He says that the big brain suffered extensive damage in the AI plague, and Brainy has orders to return to the 31st century to help. And classic Brainy's like, look, you knew that you had to go back to your time eventually. And also, but that kind of like brings up the question, like, what about when? Like, because he has literally a family in the 31st century, but he's out of his own time too. Like, would he always have to go back to his own time? Like, that, it doesn't make sense. But apparently, our Brainy has been called upon to merge with the big brain, and then he would basically cease to exist, and all the other Brainies would cease to exist. But classic Brainy says like, look, but you wouldn't cease to exist. It would be a different form of existence. You'd be a part of something greater. But then Brainy says, probably one of my favorite things he's ever said, he says, I am a part of something greater here in this time. I have a family. I'm in love. I cannot abandon them. I will not abandon her. And then classic Brainy says that any other option is just not viable. And Brainy picks up his phone to look at his lock screen, and it's a picture of Nia. And it's like, where have we seen that before? With Supercorp. And Brainy says he's going to stay here long enough to take down Lex and Nyxly. He cannot leave before then. He refuses to. And honestly, this scene was so heartbreaking. It just felt like a stab in the chest, you know, like it was so rough and it was so heartbreaking. And Jesse Rath did such a good job. He's such a good actor. Emmy for Jesse Rath, like he just was so good in this scene, and he made me so upset about Brainy and the way that he just reacted to even the thought of having to leave this family that he's created behind. It's just so upsetting. Like, oh my God. But personally, I genuinely don't think they're going to kill Brainy. I don't think he's going to merge with the big brain in the finale. I don't know. I'm not saying that he won't go to the future. I mean, I don't think he will, because I think that maybe they'll find some kind of turnaround for it, but I definitely don't think that he's going to be merged with the big brain. I just think that that'd be too devastating. I don't think that's going to happen. So with Lex and Nyxly, they grab the truth totem, which is an old camera, because cameras can't lie. She says Cursix, and she's prompted to find the truth within herself. And she's kind of like alone in like a different version of the room that she was just in. I don't know. And she says she wants power and that she wants justice and that she's afraid of the parts of herself that are like her father, but nothing she says is working. And then she ends up she's like, fine, I'm used to being alone. But then she's like, well, yeah, I'm used to being alone, but I don't want to be alone anymore. And she says that she wants to have someone close to her and know that she can trust the person beside her to not betray her. And that does the trick. And the guy's like, you performed admirably. And she's able to secure the truth totem in its raw state. And honestly, this is just me, but my running theory is that in the finale, Kara will have to run at least 2 gauntlets. I almost feel like she's gonna have a like kind of Tony Stark in Avengers Endgame kind of vibes where she will wield all the totems. I don't know. This is just my theory. I could clearly be very, very, very off base, but I just feel like, because especially since the Superfriends end this episode with all of the totems, I feel like they would want to put them to use. And obviously we also know already that Kara will have to run the courage gauntlet again, in order to, realize something about herself. But I also think that maybe Kara will end up running the truth gauntlet as well, and she'll have to come to terms with her feelings for Lena and realizing, because there's clearly something that is unsaid between them. And I talked about this last week, where that moment, like there's just something unsaid between them, and the truth totem really could do that. And the only reason that I could think of to have this scene of Nyxly and so much Lex and Nyxly in these episodes is in order to set up for the finale when Kara is able to then have those moments for herself, to set this kind of precedent, especially because, like I've talked about before, Nyxly and Kara are 2 sides of the same coin. They're such narrative foils that I just can't imagine them not using these moments with Kara as well, and especially in the finale, in order to, sacrifice everything to save the world, to do anything and everything. And if that means running all of these gauntlets and wielding all of the totems, then so be it, I can't see anybody else running these gauntlets either, I don't know. Anyway, at the tower, so Esme runs to hug her aunt Kara, and she says, hey bud, and it's just so cute. I love Aunt Kara so much. Kara asks her about school, and she tells her that it gets better since she experienced the same thing when she was little at school as well. And they're going to run some tests on her. So Esme and Kelly head back to the lab. Before Alex can run off, though, Kara is like, hey, you remember those glasses that, Jeremiah and Eliza got me? Maybe we could get Esme some of those. That'd be kind of cool. Just until, she learns how to use her powers properly and she learns how to control them. Alex is like, no, she already had power dampeners before, and I'm not in the business of suppressing parts of my kid. But Kara's like, look, it could just like give her some relief, cut out the noise. They helped me belong. But Alex says it's not like that anymore. She doesn't have to hide to belong. She needs to learn how to manage her powers, not suppress them. But Kara's like, look, she'll learn to manage them in time. And then she tells Alex that she has the life experience to know what she's going through, and that there's no way for Alex to understand what that feels like. And Alex then says that they need some boundaries because if she wants parenting advice, she'll ask. Until then, Kara should not tell her how to raise her kid. It's like, oof, the girls are fighting. But also, I saw so many people being like, why did they do this? Why did they have the Danvers sisters fighting right now? It's like, sisters fight? Like, that's like it. Sisters fight. Like, it was just another moment for like Kara and Alex to end up bonding. And it's completely realistic because, of course, they would have differing viewpoints on how to raise their daughter. And Kara, coming from that background of growing up as an alien, not fitting in, being bullied, and feeling like an outsider, versus Alex seeing the change in the world, but not having actually experienced that for herself as an alien, wanting to have a better childhood for her daughter. And it's just really interesting that they were able to bring that up as well. And I don't know, I think it was really important because it was just cool to watch them, you know, establish boundaries between Kara and Alex in regards to parenting. And obviously sisters fight, you know, they fight all the time. I don't know. And that's part of the fun of their dynamic anyway, is when they butt heads and then they come back together, because they always do. So at the tower, Nia calls on the Dream Totem to show her where Nyxly is, but instead she gets flashes of Brainy where he eventually explodes into data. Then he walks into the lab and Nia confronts him. She's like, why didn't you tell me? I thought we said no more secrets. And Brainy is like, look, if I don't go back to the future, it'll mean the end of all Kaluans. And it's like, great, way to like put the existence of his entire species on his shoulders. And Nia offers to actually go with him. She's like, look, I'll come with you. I'm coming to the future. And he says, no, you have to exist in this time. But it's so stupid because it's like, hello, Win is literally in the future. Win is in the future. He was meant to exist in this time, but now he does not. He has a family in the future. Like, come on now. And the same thing with the legends. Like, hello, the legends are literally out of their time all the time. Even right now, they're stuck in like, what, the 20s? Like, hello. Oh my God. Anyway. But he tells her that his destiny is there and that hers is here in this time. And Nia says, I honestly don't know how to live in a world without you. And it's so sad. The Brainia angst in this episode was so upsetting. And then they hug, and it's just like, oh, God, I love these guys. Let them stay together. These are like the one hets that we all love, and they're going to break them up. It's fine. It's fine. So on the ship, Nyxly contemplates her new realization about Lex and about her not wanting to be alone. And Lex brings her baked goods, because he's a baker now. And it's like more food, love language, symbolism, parallels, supercorps things. Anyway, she then uses the truth totem to lasso of truth him to make sure he's telling the truth. And she asks him about the poems and about his feelings. And he says that his only desire is to rule by her side and destroy everyone who gets in their way. Very romantic. He says betraying her is inconceivable, and his only desire is to help her. She tells him he performed admirably. So at Catco, Andrea gives Lena a FaceTime call, and she immediately opens with, do you think I am a callous, narcissistic monster? And it's like, Andrea, maybe so, but also maybe not. I don't know. And Andrea wants Lena basically to tell her the truth. Like, did she cross this ethical line? Did she cross a line? Is she irredeemable? Is basically what she wants Lena to tell her. And Lena says, look, it wasn't your finest hour to do that, to leak the journals and to publish it under William's byline without his consent. Not your finest hour. And she says she's all about taking her brother down, and that going into survival mode is understandable, but damning the consequences is not always the best. And Lena says we can choose who we want to be, and if we're not who we want to be, then change it. And I really liked that moment because it's like such a full circle moment for Lena, who, you know, like has always felt like she was on, or like pushing so hard to be on the right side of history, but then still not being able to overcome the Lutherness of it all. And then, of course, here she is now saying, look, it's not always the best idea to just damn the consequences and do what you think is right, because it might not be right. It might not be right for everybody. And you have to look internally at yourself and decide what kind of person you want to be. And I love that she's just emotionally mature enough to deal with that. I love it. It's so, you know, like obviously we're dealing with the character growth that she had at the beginning of the season, which was so satisfying. So Kara arrives on the tower balcony and tells Jean that she's circled the Earth 5 times and she's found nothing of the ship because, of course, it's gone again. Jean's psychic scans aren't doing anything either, and Lena's having no luck. She just thinks the ship is actually up in space, which, ding, 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 Lena's a smart cookie because it is. Kara says she'll head back out, but Jean is like, hey, kid, you know, why have you been avoiding the tower? It's a very, like, space dad moment. Very much like, you want to tell me what's going on? Kara says that Alex is mad at her for suggesting they try to control Esme's powers. And she tells Jean, she says, I hated school. I had no friends. I was miserable. And she says, I don't want that for Esme. And Jean actually tells her, he's like, look, it's because you're a protector like me. That's who we are. And it's like so true. Space Dad Jean and Space Dad Kara. Two dads. And he ends up saying, I know you want to share in your sister's happiness. And so he tells her to clear the air before the party tonight. And it also kind of, at least for me, that moment was almost like an implicatory, and you need to find your own. Because he basically says, look, Alex and Kelly are Esme's moms. Like, you need to find your own. He's like, get a hobby. Find your own happiness and your own thing to build. And you can share in your sister's happiness, but you need to also cultivate your own. And I liked that moment a lot. I feel like that was just in the subtext of that scene. At the tower, William finds Esme in the PI part of the tower. She's playing hide and seek, but then she gets noticed by William. And then she also sees that he's brought baked goods. He says he's got apple tarts for everyone here at the tower. And then she's so cute. She's like, I'm at the tower. And he's like, you are. So then she gets a little tart. It's so cute. So William then, he drops some personal lore. And it's like, oh my God, he's got lore. But of course, it's about baking. It's like, this is his only personality trait. It's just baking. Oh my God. On his character sheet, it just says reporter, baker. And that's it. That's all it says. Because then he ends up like dropping literally a chocolate recipe, like just on this little kid as if she's going to remember. And it's like, he just has one personality trait. Anyway. So in the lab, Alex is not getting results just yet, and Kara steps in to talk to her. Alex says that she's going to cancel the party tonight because there's just so much going on with Esme that she needs to figure out. She just can't deal with it. And there's just still so much tension between Alex and Kara. So then Kelly comes in and says there's a new alien in Esme's class, a Tatomite, whose powers are, you guessed it, tattoos. But also, apparently, they have anger issues, so it's like, okay. They basically decide that she mimicked the Tatomite's powers, so that's how she got the tattoo on her neck, and why she blew up at the kid who was making fun of her baked good project. So they basically decide that they don't even need the blood test. They can still have the party, and Alex and Kelly leave to go kind of get ready because they don't have a lot of time before this party tonight. Kara then gets Lena's voice in her ear with the location of Naxum's ship, and then she says, good thing your crypto suit is good for outer space. So on the ship, the Superfriends drop in ready to fight. This scene, actually, the sequence was so good. It was a really good old-fashioned like fight scene. I really enjoyed it. Kara loses connection with Jean and then gets blasted by Nyx Lex in their matching Lexo suits. Nyxly has the truth totem on her chest and the hope totem on her arm, and Lex kind of like is jabby and an asshole, and he's like, I always get what I want. And he then blasts Kara with these like 31st century nanobots that apparently like are really painful and terrible. I don't know. But Kara then uses her heat vision to blast out of her entire crypto suit. It shatters to pieces. And I'm sure Lena was listening on comms like, are you kidding? Are you serious? You couldn't just like take the helmet off? Like you had to shatter the whole thing. Yeah, okay. She's like, I just made that. I just fixed it. I only just fixed it. But okay, that's fine. So then Kara ends up, after she blasts out of her suit, she actually ends up using the humanity totem on her arm to blast them back as well. She uses her heat vision. It's a fight. They're going at it with their lasers. So then Jean is met with Mitch, also in a Lexo suit, and he rips it off of him. And then Kara then rips the truth totem off of Nyxly and watches as Lex gives his suit to Nyxly to make sure that she doesn't suffocate, because Kara destroyed her entire Lexo suit as well. And there's also a hole in the spaceship, so it's like there's no oxygen. So Lex literally takes the suit off of his body, puts it on Nyxly so that she can breathe, and they end up dipping. They go through a portal. Kara then finds the Hope Totem too, and her and Jean dip. So they've got pretty much all of the totems at their disposal. Lex and Nyxly have 0, and they have, 6, I think? Yeah. And so then they end up dipping as well. At the tower, Jean gives a quote to William about how they have no ship, no army, and no totems. So things are looking pretty good for them right now. It's looking like they're winning. Kara arrives back and says all the totems are at the fortress, but of course William cannot publish that. Alex, Lena, and Kelly walk in and announce that Esme is the new school baking champion. Her roulade won. But unfortunately as well, their sitter called out with a flu, so Kelly will stay home with Esme. In exactly the way I thought it would play out, William offers to babysit while they're at the party. He calls it a wedding gift. Kara grabs Alex before she can leave and asks if they're okay after earlier. Kara apologizes for overstepping, and Alex apologizes for reacting so harshly. Alex says she's sorry, and it was hard for her she says she's sorry that it was hard for Kara as a kid, and she's sorry that she couldn't have done more to help her. And Kara's like, no, you've done so much, and you still do. And she tells her that Esme is really lucky to have her. And Alex tells Kara, look, it's just so important to me to make sure that Esme doesn't feel like an other, because she knows what that's like, growing up, being gay, and hiding who she was. She doesn't want her daughter to feel that way. She doesn't want her daughter to live like that. And she says, Kara responds to her and says, Esme deserves to be proud of every part of her identity, and so do you. And it's like, again, that subtext just like itching at the back of this scene, like Kara coming to terms with wanting to be proud of every part of her identity. Supergirl, Kara Danvers, Kara Zor-El, all of the facets of her being, she needs to figure out how to be proud of all of those. Then they hug, and they're literally crying, and I love it. It's so good. It's so sad thinking about how there's only a couple of scenes with Kyler and Melissa as the Danvers sisters left. It's so sad. But this one was a good one, and I really liked it. So then, in these mountains in Italy, Nyx Lex are busy licking their wounds. Mitch comes in and says, thanks for not letting me get blown up with my ship. But then Lex and Nyxly kick him out because he's annoying. Valid. Nyxly finally confesses to Lex that she's quite tired of being alone. And she says, the longer you're around, the more you put yourself at risk because you're scared I might get hurt. And again, like Kara's reveal speech to Lena. Anyone getting that vibe? And then he says, I love you, Nyxly, and that is not something that comes naturally to me, nor to me. And then this scene is another time where I'm like, this just has to all be a lead-in to Supercorp. I mean, right? Like, it just feels like it is. Like, there has to be this reason that they would set Kara and Nyxly up to be narrative foils the way that they are, and to create this massive love story, just like if only to put Kara with Lena in the finale and create this duo between the Luther and their counterpart in the final episode. And then they actually get a hit on the love totem from the crystal, and thank God it interrupts a potential kiss, because I didn't want to see that. So then the party, we get the party scene, and it's so good. It's so good. This is exactly what I wanted. Like, it's exactly what I wanted from a dance-in bachelorette party. Like, it is so good. It's so fun. It's just like a great scene, because of course it's kind of like that calm before the storm moment, and it's just so satisfying to see all our faves have fun before they have to go fight to the death, with Lex and Nyxly. And then of course also Rain on Me by Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande is playing, very queer song. So Kara does a toast to Kelly and Alex, and Kelly takes a shot, and she kind of acts like a mom about it, which was really funny. But everyone looks so good. All of the outfits are on point. Alex and Kelly in particular look incredible. Lena and Brainy with his suspenders, and Nia looks so good. Kara's dress is very interesting. But she looks good as well. Everybody looks great. They are such a group of hot people. But then Kelly pulls Alex onto the dance floor, and then Lena gives them the most wistful look ever. And it's like, again, here's another moment where it's like, there's something unspoken with Lena. There's something unspoken with the way that she is looking at dancing together. Maybe realizing that she doesn't want to be alone either. Maybe wondering and hoping that she could have that as well. And it's like, why would they purposefully include these like wistful moments if not to build into Supercorp? And then Brainy does the exact same thing, except he's like fully in agony, because obviously we know he's dealing with a lot. But the thing is that it's just so similar to, it's like, you see dancing, and then they cut to Lena, who's looking at them wistfully, and then they cut to Brainy, who's also looking at them very wistfully. It's like they're hoping and wishing and wanting for that as well. And obviously we know what Brainy's thinking about. He's thinking about Nia, and he's also thinking about his family, but probably mostly thinking about the future that he's never going to be able to have with Nia. He's never going to be able to get married to her. He's never going to be able to have this, like bachelorette party with his friends, bachelor party, experience all of these things with Nia, because he has to go and sacrifice himself. And so for Lena, it's kind of the exact same thing, where we can assume what else is she thinking about besides Kara and the life that she wants to live with her. So Brainy ends up excusing himself, and Nia follows him. Lena says that she's going to go dance, because what's the point of saving the world if you don't get to enjoy it? And this moment is very much like, oh, so they fully think that they won. Like, they think it's over. But it's not over until it's over, kids. And she just looks great. Anyway, so Kara then says that she can't take the night off. She's just too busy thinking about Lex and Nyxly, and she just can't go out and enjoy the night. But Jean says, I am scanning psychically, and the tower's security system is looking for the ship. Like, we're good, buddy. Go enjoy your night, kid. And she does. And of course, they include a shot right before Kara is convinced by Jean to go out and dance, of Lena in the middle of dancing. It's like, okay, go dance with your girl. Come on. And then, of course, Kara is the biggest goof ever. She's like such a goofy dancer. So at the bar, Brainy is really just the saddest sack. And Nia approaches. He tells her that he wishes he had his personality inhibitors, because all of this happiness is making me quite sad. I love that line. It was so good. So he can't stop thinking that soon he'll have to leave everyone, especially Nia. She tells him to just live right here in the moment with her and grabs his hand to ground him. And she asks if he can feel her hand in hers and her head on his shoulder. And she says that tonight is not the night to be a Debbie Downer. And he says, I do not intend to be this Debbie with a sad surname. And it's like, I know after this party, Nia went home with Brainy and showed him the SNL sketches of Debbie Downer. But then Brainy actually, kind of to take it on a more serious note, he says, I am grateful to feel so much love and loss, because then I know it all truly meant something. That you'll always be with me, Nia and all, no matter where I go. And it's like, oh my God, that is so sad. Such a good line. And this scene was just so incredible between Jesse and Nicole. They're so good. And their dynamic is so wonderful. And it's just so depressing. And that line, it also, like, not to be cheesy, but it just feels like it applies to the show. Like, it's like, I am happy to be sad about the show ending and to be so upset to see these characters for the last time, because it means that they did truly have an impact on me, and I appreciate that. So then they join them on the dance floor, and it's like all the Supergirl couples are dancing together. Danson, Brainia, and Supercorp. Because literally at this point, it's weird that Kara and Lena are not a couple. Like, they are literally framed as one, paired together all the time, even at this romantic party. And it's just like the elephant in the room that Kara and Lena, like, don't have partners. Because it's like, you know, Danson are dancing together, Brainia are dancing together, and then it's Kara and Lena, and it's like, oh, but they're both single, but it's like, it's just weird that they're not together. Like, it sticks out like a sore thumb that they're not together. And I have to imagine, I hope that that is purposeful, so that it's something that we're leading into. At the tower, William and Esme are in the kitchen baking together, and then William actually sees pop up on the screen that the security system has been disabled. He immediately kind of like switches into protector mode, and he tells Esme to play hide and seek, and he tells her to find the best hiding place she can possibly find in Jean's office. And Esme says, challenge accepted, and it's like, you're so cute, you're so cute. He then grabs a knife from the kitchen, and in enters Lex and Nyxly, and he says, William Day, sounds like your time is up. Ugh, he's so evil. So William is now put in a chair, and Lex tells him that he disabled the security system before arriving, and he says that he saw his little article about his journal. He says he's looking for a little girl, about as cute as a button, and her name is Esme. I'm like, why can't you say her name right? It's Esme, not Esme, you weirdo. And William is like, how do you know her name? And he says, don't you know by now? I know everything. And it's like, it's the infuriating aspect of Lex Luthor that he's just like 5 steps ahead of everyone all the time. That he just, it makes me want to like strangle him, because he's just so frustrating. That he's always like 10 steps ahead all the time. It's insane. But William tries to kind of lie about Esme, and he tries to, you know, say that she's not there, but Nyxly calls his bluff and goes to find her. And of course she has the crystal that kind of just like acts like a little beacon, and she can find her pretty easily. And when Lex turns away for a moment, William sets up his phone to record. With Nyxly, she enters the PI office, being led by the crystal. She ends up finding Esme, and she lies and says that she's a friend of her mom's, and she asks about William. After Esme asks about William, she says that he had to go back to work and offers her a tea party, and she says, we're going to have the grandest time, you and I. And it's like, oh, God, don't touch my baby. She's our daughter. She's not Danson's daughter. She's our daughter. And I don't want them to lay a hand on her. Oh my God. So then with Lex and William, he says, you really had a lot of guts publishing my journal. And they go back and forth for this scene, and with Lex holding the gun basically right to William's head. And And he says, there will always be people like me and the Superfriends to stand up to you and show the world that you're just a sad shell of a man. And Lex, ever the awful, cold, terrible person he is, says the paper boy. Like, oh, ouch. Damn. So Nyxly lets Lex know that she has Esme, and he goes to leave. He actually, like, fully gets into the elevator, but then steps out because he remembered one last thing he had to do, and he unloads 2 shots into William. He goes down, and it's kind of honestly the funniest thing in the world, because they switch to, like, the point of view of his phone camera, and William just, like, stares into it, and it's like, okay, with just, like, the blankest face ever, and you're like, oh god, they could have done anything else for this, and it would have been more impactful. And Lex says, that was for leaking my journal. And then he says, if by chance you're still alive when your friends return, remind them that I am always one step ahead. And Lex reveals that he put a bug into the tower computer system to hold back the blood test results until now, because, of course, he couldn't have anyone in the Superfriends knowing that Esme was the totem before he was able to carry out his plan. And that he also arranged the back alley meeting with Otis. And he says, as usual, I win. And he's just such a hateable villain, because you just want him to go down so bad, because he's just infuriating. And I don't know. I mean, I hate that so much of this show has spent so much time on Lex and with Lex, and he's really annoying. But it's going to be so satisfying to see Kara finally take him down for good. It's just going to be so good. As William is on the floor, his final thing he does with his final moments is send the recording to Andrea. And at the time, I was like, oh my god, petty till the end. Because he's basically like, look, you got your story, and you got me killed in the process. But everybody on Twitter was like, guys, he really wasn't trying to be petty. He was trying to, like, send her evidence. But at the same time, it's like, you could have sent that to Alex, and she could have had Supergirl there in, like, half a second, and it maybe could have saved his life, but he died pretty quickly after sending the message. But still. So at the party, they're having such a good time. They're just dancing while William is dead in the tower. But Alex ends up getting the blood test results on her phone, and they find 5th dimensional energy in her blood. They put together that Esme is the love totem, and they fly off to the tower. At Catco, Andrea gets that email and watches as William gets shot for what she did. And of course, this is going to be the moment that progresses, or that pushes her to be a Krata, but not for personal gain. Yeah. So they get back to the tower, and Kelly, Jean, and Alex immediately run to find Esme. Kara calls for William, and she finds him dead on the floor. She says he's dead. Alex, Jean, and Kelly run up and find William dead as well. It's upsetting. I mean, it's crazy because, like, this is genuinely, I think, the darkest that Supergirl has gone in a long time. Like, Supergirl just doesn't do major character deaths. Even their main villains, they just don't do major character deaths very often. I mean, everyone has found a way to come back, you know? I mean, they did Red Daughter. She died, but that was more of like she got absorbed back into Kara, so that was like, you know, but it was a sad moment. But, you know, and then, I mean, the other major character death that I can really think of that was like super effective on the show was Astra, when Alex was forced to kill her. Like, that was a big moment, and the show just hasn't had moments like that for a long time. And so I think this William murder is kind of like comparable to that in a way, just because I think all the Superfriends feel so guilty about it, you know? Obviously, they don't have, at least from what I've seen, they don't have the emotional connection that Kara did to her aunt, in order to, like, really make it that moment. But still, it's like as close as they've come to doing another Aunt Astra death moment, which is kind of crazy because Supergirl just doesn't go this dark. But like I said, this is meant to be the rock bottom, the worst, the lowest point that the Superfriends have had this entire season and really in a long time. And I get it that they wanted to, like, I get from a story perspective why they had to kill him in order to just like end this episode on that rock bottom note, but without actually killing any of the Superfriends. But it really just feels like they fridged him, because really he got killed and was really only built up as a character in order to cause pain or to force the Superfriends to do something, especially Andrea and probably Kara, or like to force them to realize that this is bad. Like, he feels fridged. He got fridged. They fridged him. And I would have much rather, even though I didn't like his character, I thought he was very annoying, I would have much rather that they had him move back to London, but I know that that's not what they had in the cards, and they wanted to have this big emotional moment, but it still just sucks really bad that they had to kill another person of color in order to make that happen. But yeah, so I don't know, it was interesting, a very interesting ending. And yeah, so that's where it ends, with Esme kidnapped by Nyx Lex and William dead on the ground. And at this moment too, Brainy, Nia, and Lena are not even there yet, so they don't even know. So I don't know, it'll be really interesting. I from the promo pictures that came out and the trailer, the episode will pick up right where they left off. So I am really intrigued to see where this goes. Obviously, next week is the end. That's it. Man, that's really sad. I'm not going to get sad about it yet, but fair warning, I will be really sad about it next week. The promo stills came out for the finale. They look really good. They look really promising. I don't know, guys. I'm really hopeful. I'm really, really hopeful for Supercorp Endgame in a Korosami kind of way. But like I said last week, keep yourself safe. Don't prepare for the worst, maybe, but also prepare for the best. I don't know. I have hope, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm just really excited to see how the series wraps up. I didn't hate this episode as much as a lot of people did. I think that obviously I hated a lot of the stuff that came about in the episode because I don't want Brainy to leave. I don't want him to merge. I didn't want to see William die. I didn't want to see Esme kidnapped. But like I said, it was meant to be this like final low blow before the finale. So I'm intrigued to see how this all goes down. Final 2 hours next week. Keep in mind, if you are planning to watch live, the episode will start an hour earlier than it normally does at 8/7 Central. So also, if you live like somewhere else, I think we also time change at some point. I don't know. Maybe we already did. I can't remember. But like, just kind of like look out on Twitter for like the exact time of when it'll be airing in your country if you do not live in the United States, if you want to catch it live. And then, like I said, next week I will be doing 2 separate episodes, one for episode 19 and one for episode 20, just so that it's not a million years long, but they will be released back to back. I'm thinking episode 19 on Saturday, episode 20 on Sunday. So be on the lookout for that. We're so close. This is it, guys. This is the end. Man. 6 years and it's all down to 1 week. Anyway, so thank you so much for listening. Tell me what you thought of this episode. You can leave a comment in the comments below. You can tweet me at TelevisedPod. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to rate, like, share, subscribe, and do all the things. And I will see you guys one last time next week. Bye.